Hi and welcome to Rainey Dewey's Art Spot. My name is Lorraine, my nickname is Rainey, and you can call me Rainey. Today's video I'm focusing on trying to finish up some of these half-started pieces. This one had just a little wash on it that I used to do a demonstration for painting a sky. So I'm just going to use this little piece of paper. I'm going to crop it down and turn it into a bookmark. But I thought it would be a good lesson in the glazing technique that you can use in watercolor. So what we're doing here is I'm laying in my yellow, and I'm going to let that transparent layer of yellow dry for the most part before I paint over the top of it. And you'll see why when you do glazing, which means you're painting one color over a color that is completely dried, you actually get a different color than you would if you mix the two on the palette. And it makes it more interesting. You can see here I'm dropping in some greens next to the yellow, and so they mix on the paper, and it just makes it a lot more interesting than if you had just mixed the yellow and green on your palette. So this is going to be sort of a little, demonstration about glazing and saving your whites. You can see I painted around the petals of the pansies. They're going to be purple, and so I didn't want a layer of color underneath, and certain little parts of the pansy face are actually white, so I wanted to paint around those. So this is one technique for saving your whites with watercolor. I will use an opaque white if I have to, but I do try to save the white whenever I can. So right now I'm just building. The background yellow is not completely dry. As you can see, that top petal on that pansy spread and popped into the background, but you know what? That's not a big deal. So when something like that happens, don't try to repair it. Just keep moving forward, and then when you finally put in the background, you won't even notice that. So that little pansy, I'm hoping, will be my focal point, and so I'm just continuing to build color on that little guy. The colors that I mixed for that are quinacridone magenta and a Windsor green shade. And so it's like a turquoise that's mixed with this bright pink. So that's how I made the purples. And you see I made a little misstep there. My brush left a mark on the paper. I'm not going to worry about that either. All of those things will be not even noticeable once you get the whole thing put together. I know it's hard to leave things like that alone when it bleeds into one color that you didn't expect it to, or if you make a mark on the paper, but try to avoid going back in immediately because you can make more of a mess that way. So I'm just going to continue to build each little pansy one behind the other, and it's kind of cool because there's no real pressure. I'm turning this into a little bookmark, and so it's a nice way to practice, and you end up with something practical to use at the end of the day that's got one of your little painting efforts on it. So it's a way to make something useful and pretty and learn something in the process. So once I'm finished doing the one side, I will flip it over and do a more abstract floral. So I'll post that in a separate video. Now we're gonna start laying in the background. So I'm painting around some of the leaves, and I love to use this technique. So we've got the yellow base, and I'm going to lay in a very dark green, and I will use indigo, sometimes raw indigo, And sometimes I'll mix it with a sap green to give you a really dark green. And the nice thing about it is the yellow that you've laid in as a base will glow through, and it just makes it look first of all more interesting, and also it gives you the illusion of leaves and stems and all the other things that are connecting the pansies in the garden. So it's almost like you know, if you're taking a photograph and you're diffusing the background, that's what this technique will help you accomplish. You can see that I'm continuing to build, and now I'm softening the leaves with a wash of green, sap green, with a little bit of the purple mixed into it. And then now I'm moving forward with finishing the background, lighter on the top, darker on the bottom. It anchors the piece. And so you can see as you do a wash over the top of the yellow, you get this beautiful glowing effect. And you can use that effect in a lot of different ways. You can use it for doing skies and backgrounds for florals, obviously shadows on buildings and all kinds of things. So just keep in mind, glazing instead of mixing on the palette is sometimes the way to go. One thing I did want to mention is the fine details and lines on those pansies. Be sure that you wait until the base coat, the yellow, is dry, otherwise you will get this bleeding. You can see the second pansy from the right. I moved forward before the yellow was completely dry, and so it got a little muddy. Sometimes you can use that as a technique, and you can muddy things that are not your focal point to push them back. So sometimes you can do it on purpose. This time I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm not alarmed by it. It's not my focal point, and so I'm not going to sweat it. And also, in the scheme of things, we're really here to have fun, to enjoy ourselves with this process, and to learn something. And so I've been hesitant to paint flowers, so for me, just picking up and painting some flowers, good, bad, or indifferent, is progress for me. So consider every time you pick up your brush a success. I suppose my point to this whole thing is to just say that don't quit on watercolor. It can be challenging, to be sure, but it can be quite exciting, and I know from experience that your early efforts do not dictate your future progress. So I want to thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you feel so inclined, and a thumbs up if you like this video. Thank you again for watching. Paint on.